Dear brothers, good morning, boys. Thursday, I would like to remind all of you that we are 2 days away from college football. For those of you that are college football fans, it's like Christmas. Almost better, but it's like Christmas. Got the game in Ireland, Florida State, Georgia Tech, I think. But I'm just ready for football. I told my buddy yesterday I might have to put a "I'm not available" response on my emails and texts until, March of next year when all of football is done. But I don't want to talk about that. This is a time of happiness and rebirth of the absolute best time of the year, which is the fall. It's college football time, baby. Anyways, I digress from that. So I'm in the midst of writing The Heroic Man. And I was thinking to myself that one of the things I do want to do is give you guys some snippets in writing and then also on here of some of the things that I'm working on, wrestling with, and some of the cool stories that I find that are in the book, or I'm at least using as fodder, if you will, to write the book. And I came across, you guys know that I love Spartan and Greek history, the Roman Empire. That time is so interesting to me because a lot of the things that happened then we took with us to today, specifically here in the States, but certainly all over the world. Just the combination of philosophy and training and the setup of society. There are things that they did that were terrible that I'm glad we don't do, and there are things they did that were great that I wish we did do. And as I was going through some various stories, there's a lot of people don't know this, but Socrates, the ancient philosopher, for all of you know his name or should, didn't actually write anything down. He doesn't have like books and things. So when you see people that quote him, it's all either secondhand or it wasn't actually him who might have said those things. They just take the words and attribute it to him. So Xenophon and Plato were his two students. Most people have heard of Plato. Xenophon might not be someone you've heard of, but Xenophon has these writings that are called memorabilia. And in one of those writings, he talks about a conversation that Socrates has with a young guy named Epigenes. And in that conversation, Epigenes is basically kind of an out of shape kid. And Socrates is like, "Hey man, you look super out of shape. Like you need to get your fitness in line." And Epigenes responds and says, "Well, Socrates, I'm not an athlete." Basically saying like, why do I need to train? I'm not going to the Olympiad anytime soon. I'm not a warrior. I'm not in the army. Like why does it matter that I'm fit? And then Xenophon kind of goes into this, Socrates goes into this, I'm not going to say tirade, but he slightly berates this young man, Epigenes, about the importance of physical fitness. And basically, in this conversation, several things come up. And the first of which being is that, yes, we need to be strong and healthy, specifically if we are in military service. At that time, everything was, for the most part, hand-to-hand combat. Warriors had to be strong. They had to protect the person on their left. Socrates is known for spending some time with the Spartans and seeing how they fought and understanding the importance of that in Greek culture and how they needed to adopt some of those things. So it mattered immensely that the men you fought next to in military circumstances were strong, healthy, able to guard the brother on their left and on their right. And that makes sense. But he then continues into several other things. So it's not just for country, but he talks about how it's also necessary to be physical to support your community, to be able to help those around you. And in doing so, that creates trustworthiness. It creates respect, because your local community knows when something happens and it requires the strength of man, you're going to be there. And again, if you're looking back at this time frame, that makes sense. Everything was built, by hand by lots of people, and it was a struggle to do so. And it required strong men to do that. Certainly it required, and they used slaves in a lot of different capacities. And I understand those things. But the point he's making is that a strong neighbor is a good neighbor. It's someone who can help you. It's someone who can contribute. And that creates a certain level of respect in your community. And then he continues talking about children. Like, if you're able to be strong, not only can you pass on a better world to your children because you've been able to handle and tolerate things, and you've been able to succeed via that trustworthiness and respect you've created, you give them a better world, but you also give them a better opportunity to succeed. And the second the second side of that coin is that you've been able to protect them from the world. The world, we think the world is dangerous today. Certainly it is. But back then, violence is just the norm. People died constantly. Never mind from swords and what have you, but from disease and sickness and what have you. But when you think about it, you had to be strong enough to protect your family. All of you have probably read stories back then where, people come to a farm that's on the outskirts of town. The Romans show up and they're just slaughtering people. And you have all of these local militia, if you will, that try to fight back. And some of them succeed and some of them don't. But they were all, for the most part, trying to be capable of that. And his point was, if you're not capable, the chances of your family getting in trouble is just heightened. And lastly, he kind of dives into the dangers of being unfit, losing your mind, losing your health, poor memory, the fact that bad health condition leads to essentially the physical incapacities you have, your infirmity, if you will, leads you to having disease. And a diseased person cannot do all of what we talked about above. A diseased person can't serve their country, they can't build their community, and they can't protect their family. And I'm reading through this and I'm taking some notes, and it just struck me how that is exactly what we should be thinking about today in terms of manliness. Because specifically manly strength, the virtue of manly strength. I think oftentimes we put everything into terms of vanity. We think of vanity as being like, I exercise because I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want to play good. Like I get the whole Deion Sanders vibe there. And I know people are like, yeah, I want to be shredded. I want big biceps. I want to get rid of my belly fat. I get it. However, that should be the last thing that we consider. And I put this into the book because I think it matters. And I think all of you listening will glean something from this. Vanity is a byproduct of fitness, no doubt. When you are healthy and fit, you will look better. You will be stronger. That's a given. But that can't be our primary purpose in becoming fit, because vanity at the end of the day ends up being a selfish, pride-driven thing that we pursue. It's for ourselves. The other things are not for ourselves. They are for others. They are contributing to society. They are keeping our community safe. They are loving on our family and children, which is first and foremost when it comes to being fit. And when you shift your gaze towards that as the reason for being fit, it changes how you view the world. And it's interesting that you can go back to a few hundred, BC to get some of this wisdom, but some of the greatest things in the world are very old, and they're tried and true, which is why it's shocking to me sometimes that in our laziness today, we avoid them so much. But The fact of the matter is that a strong, healthy man, yes, it is important to see what your body is capable of. It's important to protect your body, to keep your temple strong. I think biblically that is actually what we are called to do, is never to allow ourselves to be slovenly, lazy, and to care for our bodies. And in doing so, you are going to see the results physically from a vanity perspective, if you will. However, the mainstay of that is that we are called to contribute and to work in mankind. And that is something we have to give to the world. And if we are lacking physical abilities to do so, that puts the world at risk. We know that. All of you can look around. This isn't hard. As men become weaker, the world becomes weaker, becomes more dangerous, becomes more evil. Evil men don't care. Evil people don't care that you aren't doing what's necessary physically. They're just going to take advantage of you. That can't be allowed. Your job as men is to go forth, to become stronger, to be more fit. If the world calls for you to go do something that it needs, if your family requires you to go forth and protect them, to wear the skins of anyone who would dare try to threaten them, you have to be capable, physically capable. And this isn't just exercise. This is how we're eating. Are we eating to become, just these pillowy pieces of crap? Or are we eating to perform? Are we eating to protect? I'm not saying that we have to give up all the things that are enjoyable in this world, but we've had quite enough of them. We don't need any more of them. It's become a addiction that men have where, I deserve a beer. I deserve this. What do you deserve? What you deserve is what you ask for. You have to change, men have to change the focus we've made from it's about me to it's about the ones around me. It is my job as the man in this world, as the man in this household, as a man in this community, to protect, lead, and love. In a nature that is not strong, you have taken away part of that equation. I'm not saying that people that don't have great physicality can't lead or teach, or, there's the second half of the second part of the book is the mental and emotional side of being a man. And there are people that can provide knowledge, and especially considering that there are some people who have lost certain physical abilities. I'm not downgrading that. I know that there are people that have certain really unfortunate sufferings that they have in life, and they have to find other ways to contribute. But we're talking about the margins when we talk about those things. Those are difficulties that men have been given, that they have walked into in some capacity, and they have to fight them. But the vast majority of us, most of you listening to this, don't have that to fall back on. If you have the ability, you must go get stronger. Because when that happens, you are then able to protect the ones you love, your community, and your country. And I need you all to walk away with that purpose. It is not about you. This is one of the things that when I take new calls with clients, men around me, it's amazing that often the first thing they mention is the reason that we're even talking in the first place is that they don't feel strong enough to do anything. They can't play on the ground with their grandkids. They're struggling to get around work. Their wife, is just kind of looking at them and like, hey, you need to get your life together. Like they've lost intimacy with their wife. So essentially a lot of the things that physicality allows them to do, they've lost. And now they're going, oh my gosh, my life is brutal. I can't do this. Like I'm falling apart at the seams. And so understand, gentlemen, when you shift the gaze away externally, it's no longer about what you want internally. Shift it away from you. This is about the people in my world, about the people that I love. I'm doing this for them. That allows you to have more purpose and motivation as you go to exercise. I've done an entire couple of episodes now on that being enough. To be able to protect your loved ones is enough motivation. But more than that, it is a calling, a biblical calling at that. We are called to protect and defend the weak, if you will, around us. I'm not saying that everyone in the world is quote unquote weak, but they can be vulnerable. There's absolutely no question. Children are a vulnerable class of humans in the world. And guess what? It falls on us as men to protect those vulnerable little ones. If that isn't enough for you to make changes, I don't know what is. You will fall behind. You will be trampled, unfortunately. And that just can't be allowed. That is below the heroic man. And I think all of you understand that. I know this is somewhat of an echo chamber, if you will. But it's true. And I need all of us to take that torch and start carrying it forward, where not only are we an example for other men about fitness, health, strength. It's not just about doing it in our own lives, although that is primary. The other part of that is getting others involved. Working out with neighbors, talking to friends, being like, hey, let's go for a run. Let's go work out this weekend. Hey, I'm going to the, gun range. Let's go work on some target practice. Hey, I'm going to jiu-jitsu this weekend. Why don't you come along with me? Love for you to join. Working on your physicality amongst brothers is something that is important. It doesn't have to be in person. I've got plenty of clients. I work with clients all over the world. And we work in tandems, if you will. Like they're working out, they're sending me the stuff they're doing. That the brotherhood can expand in that manner. I do think having people local that you are around is important. But what matters is that you are connecting with other men and you are all growing physically. No different than the warriors of old, no different than the Spartans that trained all day, every day, that went through the agoge as children, honing their skills, learning how to wrestle, learning how to fight, learning how to use swords and spears, training endlessly for what could be years until they see combat. But honing their skills is what mattered, because in the event, God forbid, that someone does show up at the door and threats ensue, you have a treasure trove of training that allows that person to walk away very differently than how they showed up. That's what matters. You have to become reliable through your physicality. And I want you all to really think on that today. That's it. Love you all. God bless. Be strong. Let's get after it. Let's have a hell of a day. Football this weekend, baby. Let's go. We'll see you.